Aontú was founded in January of 2019 and contests elections in both the north and south of the country. The party was founded by former Sinn Féin TD Peadar Tóibín after he resigned from the Sinn Féin party on the 15th of November 2018 as a result of his opposition to the party whip due to his anti-abortion views. The party by many has been described as socially conservative, while holding many left-wing views with regards to economics, climate change and migration. The party currently holds one seat in Dáil Éireann, with a further 5 seats at local council level throughout both the north and south of Ireland. With the party being relatively new, I sat down with Secretary of Ógra Aontú, Dáire Tully, to ask why he got involved in politics and why he decided to join Aontú. So first of all, thanks for joining me, obviously as a representative of Ógra Aontú. So initially, for yourself personally, what got you interested in politics?
I suppose a lot of my interest in politics, it certainly didn't come from a family background like a lot of people. As I don't remember ever not being interested in it. I was a bit of a weird child, kind of would have was reading through a lot of the papers in 5th and 6th class. So as far back as I suppose I sort of could have taken an interest in it, I did. I suppose a lot of my major interest in it would have come probably sometime around the crash in 2008, which I was only 10 then, so I was very young, but it was probably just as politics began to sort of be everything in the media at the time. You couldn't sort of look near it without there being any politics, and that's really when my interest began to come about.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously you got involved in youth politics then later on, so can you describe how you initially got involved with Ógra Aontú?
Yeah, I suppose I like a lot of people, I didn't within Aontú as a whole and within Ógra Aontú, I didn't start off in Aontú. When I was in first year in college, I actually joined Fianna Fáil and ended up being chair of the Ógra Fianna Fáil coming within Trinity. And after I suppose a few years, I began to get quite sceptical with where the party was going, and in Christmas of so it's coming up to Christmas of 20. What year? I'm trying to remember now what year I was chair of the show. This would have been I would have been so it's 2 years ago now. So yeah, in Christmas of 2018, I eventually ended up resigning from the party, and in Christmas of 2018, I resigned from the position of chair of the Common, and a few months later resigned again from the party, and that was just sort of general scepticism of where the party was going, and due to sort of things like the party didn't listen to its members. It was becoming very obvious that the party wasn't going to run any candidates in the general election, in the local elections in the north of Ireland. So I decided that wasn't for me, and eventually when Aontú was being founded, I got involved and joined the party.
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about how when you left Fianna Fáil, you joined Aontú, and then you were dissatisfied that maybe Fianna Fáil weren't contesting elections in the north. So now, in your own perspective, obviously you got involved through, you said your main interest in politics would have been around the time of the crash. What is it now in youth politics that is keeping you involved in it?
A lot. I mean, there's never sort of. I think one of the great things about specifically youth politics is that there's, especially now in a COVID world, there's a lot of issues that are becoming not so, I suppose, not so stable, which again makes it interesting in itself. It's I mean, at the moment, myself and a few of the guys within Ógra Aontú are working on a lot of stuff to do with education and what third level is going to look like in the next year. And it's issues like that matter to young people and matter to myself as a student. And trying to come up with ways we can resolve things is what keeps me going and keeps me involved.
Yeah, and obviously when you talk about trying to resolve issues, a lot of that would be conversing with senior parties and in your position with Peadar Tóibín.
Yes.
So do you find, as a whole, not just in your own party, that politicians are listening to younger people a lot now? And if so, in what aspects in particular?
I think they are and they aren't. I think I'll give Peadar a huge amount of credit. He's very good at meeting with us regularly with sort of the core crew that are getting Ógra Aontú going. I think part of the problem is with a lot of politicians is that you have groups which of course have their place, but like USI, who politicians tend to think they represent all students, when if you look at real engagement with USI, it's less than 10% of students. So I think politicians do listen to sort of a lot of interest groups without specifically actually trying to talk to young people as a whole. Now maybe it is, people could put forward a good argument that more people need to get involved in USI, and I would certainly agree with that. But I think politicians will listen to often what suits them, and I think it's often suits politicians to get a photo opportunity and say, look, we had a meeting with this group.
So on the points again, and I want to talk on just broader youth politics as well, because a lot of people are involved in politics at a youth level, but they never get involved in parties. And one of the big things that I've always kind of found interesting is that, you see a big referendum come along, like we have, particularly last with the 8th Amendment and the marriage equality referendum. We've had youth numbers come out in masses for those referendums, not part of any particular party, but to campaign on both sides.
Of course.
So the question is, do you think that there is anything now that will galvanise the youth again to come out in force, regardless of party?
I would guess the current, I think what we have to remember, for a lot of people over the past, especially over the past sort of since, let's say, the marriage referendum, that a lot of young people, the economy was getting at the stage where you went to college. Most people, yes, they were paying very high rents and unfortunately had to work more than they should have had to get through college. But people, they went to college, they went out, were usually able to find work, and even if they, from month to month, didn't have a huge amount of money in their pocket after graduation, they still were able to get by. I think now more people might be encouraged to get involved in party politics, because it's the economy that's the problem. It's not sort of issues such as the 8th Amendment and the marriage referendum, where they're big sort of social issues where people get involved in. I think if a lot of people will see that if they want to try and put forward their ideas to fix the economy in a post-COVID world, they'll probably have to get involved in party politics, and I think people will start to gradually get involved again because of this crisis.
Yourself in particular, you've had a long journey through youth politics and dabbled a bit in senior politics as well yourself with the senior parties. Where do you see yourself in the future of youth politics and just in politics in general going?
Future of youth politics, I want to continue campaigning as I am. Hopefully it won't be all over Zoom and over and just through writing documents. Hopefully we'll be able to go out and actually campaign in the future. And that's really where I see myself within youth politics. Within senior politics, I'm not someone who has this great ambition about a political career. I do prefer to be on the sidelines and doing things like policy and campaigns as I am now, and that is where I would see myself continuing. Is hopefully I would see myself more as the parliamentary assistant as opposed to the parliamentarian, might be the way to put it.
Yeah, the interesting thing I've had with the interviews that I've done with members of different political parties is you always notice the bigger parties, say Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, the individuals you interview are much more, yearning to get into that realm of politics and become public representatives. And then when you get to the smaller party scale, it's much more confined issues and, things about people wanting to work from the sidelines and really put in a hard graft bit of effort. Do you find it's kind of the fact, because obviously your would be described as a small party, obviously it's a new party with a sole member in the Dáil. Do you find it's difficult in a sense to compete with bigger parties on a youth scale, first of all, and then on a general scale as well?
On a youth scale, I mean, to be honest with we haven't been. We're only starting to launch in the universities. Ógra Aontú in itself only launched a couple of weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we go on to university campuses and actively seek members. But I think when you look at a lot of the smaller parties within a college environment, I think they actually find it easier to get youth engagement because people want to ask questions, first of all, if they don't know who the party is. And secondly, I think there is that sort of, it mightn't be us, given Aontú would be more socially conservative, but there is that bit of sort of anti-establishment thing that is always there amongst young people. And young people, I think, gravitate towards smaller parties more so than larger parties often. On a more national scale, if you look at the whole country, I think it will be harder down the line. It's hard for any small party to recruit people. I think, especially if you look. I mean, I'll use my time in Fianna Fáil as an example. It was as much as a social thing for especially a lot of people who were retired and that's who were retired and were getting active in politics for something to do. It was as much as sort of a big get together that happened sort of fortnightly or once a month as it was to do with the politics. And I think that end of it will make it harder, especially as we begin to build as a party. But we'll keep going. I mean, and just because you're smaller doesn't necessarily mean you can do less. I do find with a smaller party, you can have nearly as many people who want to be active as you would in a larger party. Yes, you don't have that element of people who join for the social aspect as much, but you do have similar numbers in terms of campaigners.
Yeah. Aontú obviously is an all-Ireland party. You know, they contest elections in the north as well as the south of Ireland. Do you find it's almost a prerequisite for newer parties coming in to fill a gap? Also, that, you know, bigger parties in the south have left up north. You know, you don't see Fine Gael contesting elections up north. Fianna Fáil, as much as they would like to contest elections up north, and they did technically try at one stage, don't actually contest elections up north. So what is it, just about offering more alternatives to people up north as well as down south as well?
Yeah, well, I think that's something that is very important. I mean, if you look at the north at the moment, you have you have Sinn Féin, who are in many ways still offering that old sectarian politics while still handing over certain issues to Westminster when it suits them, such as abortion. And then you have the SDLP, who are very much going nowhere at the moment. I mean, the SDLP, it's a party. When I speak to a lot of young people from the north, they don't know what the SDLP believes in. It's and I think the good thing is with a party like Aontú, we're very clear in our three principles of life, unity, and economic justice. It's these three principles that the party is built around, where we're sort of pro-life at all stages of life. We believe in the unity of Ireland, not only as a political entity, but also the unity of the people of Ireland, north and south. And we believe ultimately in a fair society that allows somebody, no matter where their background is from, to do what they can to achieve what they want to within that society. And I think that's something that speaks to people north and south. And obviously, if we are a Republican Party, we do believe, as I said, in the unity of the country, and therefore, if you really do believe that, you have to contest elections north and south. You can't simply live in one jurisdiction and hope for the best.
No, yeah, for sure. One thing I just want to finish off on, obviously, this is more pertaining to the senior party of Aontú as it is to the young youth branch, because obviously it's only started up. But it's important to remember that Aontú is also a very new party, and they contested both the last general election and the elections both in the north and in the south for the council elections. The question is, and I know you touched on it a little bit, but where do you see Aontú's future, say 5-10 years down the line? What would be your main aim or goal for it?
Well, I'd like to think there'd be a few more TDs there alongside Patter. I mean, we've a few great. We've two brilliant councillors in Sarah O'Reilly and Cavan and Jim Codd in Wexford, and then we have representatives who would be of the Ógra age, such as Paul Lawless out of Mayo. And I would like to think that the likes of them could break into the politics and end up in it all. And if not, continue their hard work on the council. Ultimately, it is about building from the ground up. So you get the members, you get the name out there, and hopefully the Irish people, who will have the ultimate say on where Aontú goes, will be able to build up like that and begin to become a movement within the country that can have an impact on the politics of the island.